She mistook a CEO for the rideshare driver picking her up, but that mistake changed everything. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Emma stood under the glow of the street lamp, her eyes scanning the crowded curb for the familiar logo of her rideshare app. The evening had been long, too long, and all she wanted now was to get home. She had been running on little sleep for days, juggling long shifts at the diner with late-night study sessions for her art degree. Her phone buzzed with a notification. Her ride had arrived. She sighed with relief and pulled her coat tighter around her shoulders, the winter air biting at her skin. The car that pulled up in front of her wasn't exactly what she expected. It was sleek, black, with tinted windows, not the usual worn-out sedan she was used to seeing. The driver, a man in a dark suit, sat behind the wheel, his eyes focused straight ahead. It didn't strike Emma as unusual at first. After all, she had seen her fair share of odd rideshare cars, especially during busy times. She tapped the back window lightly, then slid into the back seat, assuming the driver was just another anonymous figure in the city's endless line of rideshare workers. "Hi, you must be Kevin," Emma said with a tired smile as she settled into the seat, her bag slipping off her shoulder. The man glanced up at her, his brow furrowing for a moment before he gave her a small, polite smile. "Right, Kevin, that's me," he replied, his voice steady, but something about the way he spoke made her feel a strange sense of hesitation. She brushed it off, too tired to care much. She had heard enough about awkward blind dates, and it didn't matter anyway. This was just a ride home, after all. The car pulled away from the curb, merging into the steady flow of traffic. As they drove through the quiet streets of downtown, Emma glanced out the window, her mind wandering to the unfinished sketches scattered in her bag. She had big dreams of opening her own art studio one day, but the reality was far more grounded. Bills piled up, and the weight of student loans was starting to feel like a heavy anchor dragging her down. She sighed softly and tucked her hair behind her ear, trying to shake off the feeling of despair that had been creeping in for weeks. "So, what do you do, Kevin?" she asked, looking back at the man in the front seat. He turned his head slightly, his eyes flickering toward her in the rearview mirror. "I work in tech," he answered casually, his tone low and measured. Emma nodded, trying to picture him in that world. Tech. She wasn't great with computers, but she had heard enough to know that people in the tech industry usually did well for themselves. "That's cool. Coding, right?" she said, attempting to keep the conversation light. He nodded again, but there was a subtle shift in his posture, a slight smile on his lips that didn't quite match the rest of his serious demeanor. "Something like that," he said, and his voice trailed off, leaving the space between them filled with an awkward silence. Emma wasn't used to awkward silences, but the man didn't seem bothered by it. She found herself rambling on about her day, her mind searching for something to fill the uncomfortable pause. She told him about her job at the diner, the challenges of being a student, and her dream of one day opening her own gallery. Her words spilled out faster than she intended, a reflection of how nervous she was, not because of the man beside her, but because of the weight of her own worries. She stole a glance at him, half expecting him to be disinterested, but to her surprise, he seemed to be listening intently, his attention never wavering. "Sounds like you've got big dreams," he finally said, his voice soft. Emma laughed, a nervous laugh. "Yeah, well, dreams are all I've got right now," she said, her words hanging in the air. She looked out the window again, the city lights blurring together as the car continued its path through the dark streets. She was so lost in her thoughts that she barely registered the fact that they had reached her apartment building. The car stopped in front of the entrance, and she glanced at the man beside her. "Thanks for the ride, Kevin," she said, reaching for the door handle. The man's eyes flickered to her for a brief moment before he said, "It was my pleasure, Emma. Take care of yourself." She nodded, still half distracted by her own thoughts, and stepped out of the car. As she closed the door behind her, she didn't think much of it. Just another rideshare experience, nothing more. Little did she know, that mistake, that one simple mix-up, would change everything. As the days passed, Emma tried to forget about the mysterious rideshare driver, Kevin, but somehow, the encounter lingered in her thoughts. Her days at the diner were long, and the weight of her student loans felt heavier with each passing week. Her dreams of opening an art gallery seemed further out of reach, especially when faced with the reality of her current situation. But despite her exhaustion, Emma couldn't shake the image of the man in the sleek black car. He had been quiet, but there was something about him that intrigued her. She had seen people with money before, but he had a presence that was different, almost enigmatic. The way he listened to her, the way he didn't rush to fill every silence with empty chatter. It was as if he actually cared about what she had to say. It made her feel heard, something she wasn't used to. That night, as she collapsed onto her bed after another tiring shift, her phone buzzed. It was a message from Jenny, her best friend. "Did you meet the guy at the event? The one who you thought was a rideshare driver?" Emma's heart skipped a beat. How did Jenny know about that? She quickly typed back, "What do you mean?" Jenny responded almost immediately. "I saw the news, Emma. The guy you met is Liam Parker. He's a CEO, like a big deal in tech. They're calling him the next Steve Jobs or something." Emma froze. She stared at the screen, her mind racing. She had no idea. The man she had shared a quiet, awkward ride with, the man she thought was just another driver, was a tech mogul. She had no idea how to feel about it. On one hand, it made her feel embarrassed for not recognizing him sooner. On the other hand, she couldn't help but think that maybe, just maybe, it wasn't such a mistake after all. The next day, Emma tried to shake off the thought of Liam, but it was impossible. She kept seeing him everywhere, on the covers of magazines, in news articles about his company's latest achievements. It was clear that he was a powerful man, but she couldn't get rid of the memory of their conversation. That night, she went to a small coffee shop to clear her head, sitting in a corner booth with her sketchbook open, but her mind kept wandering. She scribbled absent-mindedly, her pen moving across the page without any real direction. "Excuse me, is this seat taken?" A voice interrupted her thoughts. Emma looked up to find none other than Liam standing there, looking as calm and composed as ever, dressed in a sleek blazer and jeans. For a moment, she just stared at him, her heart pounding in her chest. "Liam," she managed to say, her voice barely above a whisper. "I didn't expect to see you here." He smiled, a warm, genuine smile that made her feel both nervous and strangely comforted. "I could say the same," he replied. "I hope I'm not interrupting." Emma quickly shook her head, motioning to the empty seat across from her. "No, not at all. Please, sit down." He sat down, his presence filling the small space. There was a moment of awkward silence before he spoke again. "I wanted to apologize for the other day," he said. "I didn't mean to confuse you, but I couldn't help but enjoy our conversation. You were so real, and that's not something I come across often." Emma blinked, caught off guard. "Real?" she repeated, feeling a little self-conscious. "Yeah," Liam said, his gaze steady. "Most people I meet either want something from me or are too busy pretending to be someone they're not. But you—" He paused, searching for the right words. "You were just yourself." It was refreshing. Emma felt her cheeks flush. She wasn't used to compliments like that, especially from someone as successful and put together as him. "Well, I didn't exactly expect to meet a CEO," she said with a nervous laugh, trying to keep the mood light. "I thought you were just a driver." Liam chuckled, his eyes twinkling with amusement. "I guess I should have introduced myself properly," he said. "But I wanted to. See what it would be like to talk to someone who didn't know me for my title or my money." Emma's mind raced. She didn't know what to say. Was he being sincere, or was this just some sort of game to him? She couldn't be sure, but something in the way he spoke made her want to believe him. "I never got to ask," Liam said after a moment. "What's your dream? What do you really want to do?" Emma hesitated. She wasn't used to talking about her dreams with people who could actually make a difference in her life. But for some reason, with Liam, it felt different. She took a deep breath and said, "I want to open my own art gallery. I want to create a space for artists who don't have the money or the connections to get noticed. There's so much talent out there, but so many people never get the chance to show their work." Liam listened intently, his expression thoughtful. "That's incredible," he said. "I think the world needs more people like you. People who actually care about something beyond themselves." Emma was taken aback. No one had ever spoken to her like that before. It made her feel both vulnerable and seen, like for the first time, someone believed in her dream as much as she did. I don't know, she said softly, her gaze dropping to her sketchbook. It's a long shot. I'm not sure how I'm going to get there, but it's all I've ever wanted. Liam's eyes softened. You don't have to figure it all out right now. But if you ever need help, if you want advice or guidance, I'm here. No strings attached. Just someone who believes in what you're doing. Emma felt a wave of gratitude wash over her. She didn't know what to make of this situation. She didn't know if she could trust him, or if this was all just a coincidence. But in that moment, she felt like maybe, just maybe, everything was starting to change. It had been 2 weeks since Emma met Liam at the coffee shop, and despite the strange connection they had shared, she still felt hesitant. They had exchanged numbers, but Emma wasn't sure what to make of it. Liam had been kind, offering advice and encouragement, but there was a part of her that couldn't shake the feeling of uncertainty. She was used to people having motives, used to people wanting something in return. And yet, Liam had seemed different. He had asked for nothing, offered his support without expecting anything in return, and that made her wonder even more. Was he truly genuine, or was this just another act of a wealthy man who enjoyed the power of giving? She couldn't deny that she was curious. Her life had become a never-ending cycle of working long hours and trying to scrape by. But every time she thought about her dreams, a spark of hope lit up inside her. Maybe Liam was just a guy who saw potential in her. Or maybe, just maybe, he was the key to the future she had always dreamed of. One evening, after a particularly grueling shift at the diner, Emma found herself sitting at her kitchen table, her sketchbook open in front of her. She hadn't touched it in days, the constant exhaustion weighing her down. But tonight, something felt different. She picked up her pencil and began to sketch, her hand moving almost instinctively, as though the lines were drawn from someplace deep inside her. Her phone buzzed, interrupting the quiet hum of the evening. It was a message from Liam. Hey Emma, I hope I'm not disturbing you. I was thinking about your gallery idea. I know you're probably swamped, but if you're up for it, I'd love to meet and talk more. Maybe I could help you get started. Her heart skipped a beat. She stared at the message for a moment, unsure whether she should reply. She wasn't used to people offering help without strings attached, and the last thing she wanted was to feel obligated to someone. But at the same time, this was her dream, the thing she had worked so hard for. She couldn't ignore it. After a deep breath, she typed back, I'd like that. I'm free tomorrow after my shift if you're around. Liam responded almost immediately, perfect. I'll pick you up at the diner. Let's make it happen. The next day, Emma found herself pacing nervously in the back of the diner. She had never imagined that she would be meeting someone like Liam under these circumstances. When her shift finally ended, she gathered her things, trying to ignore the butterflies in her stomach. As she stepped outside, she saw him waiting by his car, leaning casually against the door. He was dressed in a simple, dark shirt and jeans, but even then, he had a presence that seemed to draw attention. Hey, Emma, Liam said with a smile as she walked up. Ready? She nodded, trying to calm her racing heart. Yeah, let's go. The drive was quiet at first, but as they reached the outskirts of town, Liam spoke up. I've been thinking a lot about your gallery idea, Emma. You know, I've seen a lot of people in the art world struggle to get their start. But there's something special about your vision. It's not just about showcasing art. It's about giving artists a place to be heard, to share their stories. I think it could really make a difference. Emma felt a warmth spread through her chest at his words. She hadn't realized how much she needed to hear someone say it. Someone who didn't just nod along, but truly understood what she wanted to create. Thank you, she said, her voice soft. It's all I've ever wanted, but I've always felt like it was out of my reach. Liam glanced at her, his expression thoughtful. You'd be surprised what's within reach if you have the right support. I'm willing to help you, Emma. I can help you set up your gallery, give you the resources you need to make it happen. She turned to look at him, her heart racing. Why? She asked, unable to stop herself. Why would you want to help me? Liam gave her a small smile. Because I believe in you. I believe in your dream. And I think the world could use more people like you. People who see beyond the surface, who want to create something meaningful. Emma was silent for a moment, absorbing his words. She hadn't expected this, hadn't expected to be in a position where someone like Liam would offer to help her, let alone believe in her. She had always felt so small in the grand scheme of things, but now, for the first time in a long while, she felt like she might actually have a chance. The car pulled into a small, quiet park, and Liam parked near a bench under a large oak tree. "Let's take a walk," he said, and they both got out of the car. As they walked down the path, Emma could feel the weight of the conversation settling in. "So, what's next?" she asked, her voice shaky. "Next, we start planning," Liam replied. "We'll work together to make this happen. But first, I want you to take a moment and really think about what you want. This is your dream, Emma. I'm just here to help you build it." They spent the next hour talking about her vision for the gallery, brainstorming ideas, and discussing how they could turn it into a reality. For the first time in what felt like forever, Emma could see the future clearly. No longer just a series of small, disconnected dreams, but a path that was starting to take shape in front of her. Liam wasn't just offering her help. He was giving her something more. He was giving her the chance to believe in herself again. As they said goodbye that evening, Emma felt a sense of peace she hadn't felt in a long time. She wasn't sure where this journey would take her, but for the first time, she felt like she was walking down a path that was meant for her. And with Liam by her side, anything seemed possible. It had been 2 months since Emma and Liam had started working together. The gallery was no longer just a dream in her sketchbook. It was becoming a reality. Thanks to Liam's support and resources, Emma was able to find a small, but perfect, space downtown. The walls were bare, ready to be filled with the work of unknown artists who, just like her, had something to say but no way to say it. Emma spent countless hours at the space, working with contractors to bring her vision to life. Liam had been by her side, offering advice and ideas, but he had always respected her creative control. Every decision was hers to make. She was determined to make the gallery a place that represented not just art, but community, a place where people could connect and find meaning in something larger than themselves. The opening night was fast approaching, and Emma found herself overwhelmed. There were so many details to handle: promotions, invitations, the artwork itself. Despite the excitement, she couldn't help but feel a rising sense of panic. She had never organized something this big before. What if people didn't come? What if her vision fell flat? Liam noticed the change in her energy as the opening drew near. One evening, after a particularly stressful day, he texted her, "Meet me for dinner tomorrow night. We need to talk." Emma wasn't sure what to expect, but she agreed. The next evening, she walked into the restaurant where Liam had asked to meet her. It was a cozy little bistro, one of his favorite spots. He was already seated at a table, his usual calm demeanor in place, but there was something different in the air. He smiled as she approached. "Hey, Emma, you look like you could use a break." She smiled back, sitting down across from him. "It's just a lot, she said, her voice tired. "There's so much writing on this opening, and I don't want to mess it up. What if people don't like it?" Liam looked at her with understanding, his eyes softening. "You've put everything into this, Emma. That's what matters. Whether they love it or not, the fact that you've created something meaningful is already a success." Emma looked down at the table, taking a deep breath. "I just don't know if I'm ready for this. Sometimes, it feels like I'm in way over my head." Liam reached across the table, placing his hand gently on hers. "You don't have to do it alone," he said. "I know you're afraid, but you're not in this alone. I'm here, and I believe in you." The sincerity in his voice made Emma's heart race. She had never felt this kind of support before, especially not from someone like Liam. She had always thought that people who were successful had it all figured out, that they didn't struggle the way she did. But Liam was different. He wasn't just offering her help. He was giving her the confidence to believe in herself. "Thank you," Emma whispered, squeezing his hand. "I don't know what I'd do without you." Liam smiled, his grip tightening just slightly. "You'd find a way, Emma. You always do." The next few days were a blur of final preparations, but Emma began to feel more at ease. The nerves were still there, but they were mixed with excitement. As the day of the opening finally arrived, she stood in front of the gallery, looking at the empty space one last time. The walls were lined with paintings, sculptures, and photographs, art that had been hidden away, waiting for a place to be seen. She couldn't help but feel proud of what she had accomplished. This wasn't just her dream anymore. It was a dream that had taken shape through the hard work of so many people. The night of the opening, Emma stood at the door of the gallery, greeting guests as they arrived. Liam was there, of course, standing by her side and offering his quiet support. As the crowd grew, Emma began to relax, letting herself enjoy the moment. People were actually coming. They were seeing the art. They were talking, connecting, and laughing. It was everything she had hoped for. As the night went on, Emma looked around the room, seeing the joy on people's faces as they experienced the artwork. But her eyes kept drifting to Liam, who was standing off to the side, watching her with a look of pride in his eyes. Emma made her way over to him, feeling the warmth of the evening settling in her chest. "This is amazing," she said, her voice filled with emotion. "I can't believe it's really happening." Liam smiled, his gaze soft. "You did it, Emma. You made it happen, and I couldn't be prouder of you." She looked at him, her heart swelling. "I never could have done it without you," she said, her voice thick with gratitude. Liam's smile deepened. "You didn't need me to make this happen. You just needed someone who believed in you." As the evening came to a close, Emma stood outside the gallery, looking up at the city skyline. The night air was cool, but it didn't matter. She had made it. She had created something that mattered. And with Liam by her side, she knew there was no limit to what she could accomplish. This was only the beginning. Months passed, and the gallery continued to thrive. Emma's vision was being realized more and more every day, and with each new artist that was showcased, she felt like she was stepping further into her own power. The opening night had been a success, but it wasn't just the crowd or the recognition that made her heart swell. It was the feeling of truly doing something meaningful. Something that wasn't about chasing money or success for the sake of it, but about creating a space for art and for people who had stories to tell. The gallery had become her home, and she was proud of what she had built. However, as the months went by, Emma began to sense a subtle shift between her and Liam. At first, it had been nothing more than small moments, glances exchanged during meetings, lingering touches when they worked side by side. But now, those moments seemed more deliberate, more charged. She couldn't help but feel a growing connection to him. It wasn't just about his support anymore. It wasn't about the help he had given her to get the gallery off the ground. It was about something deeper, something she wasn't sure she was ready to confront. Liam had always been there for her, and his belief in her had kept her going through the hardest times. But now, when she looked at him, there was something else in his eyes, something she wasn't sure how to read. One evening, as Emma was locking up the gallery, she found Liam standing outside, waiting for her. "I was just about to leave," she said, surprised to see him. "Everything okay?" He smiled, but there was an intensity in his gaze that she hadn't noticed before. "I was hoping we could talk," he said, his voice soft but firm. Emma's heart skipped a beat, unsure of what he meant. "Talk about what?" Liam took a step closer, his hands in his pockets. "About us," he said, his eyes locking with hers. "I've been thinking about you a lot lately, Emma. More than I probably should." Emma's breath caught in her throat. She had known something was building, but hearing him say it out loud felt different. It felt like a moment of truth that she wasn't prepared for. "Liam, she stopped herself, not knowing how to put her feelings into words. He took a step closer, closing the distance between them. "I care about you," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "And I think I've been falling for you." Emma's heart raced as she looked at him. She had always known there was something between them, but this was different. She didn't know how to respond. Part of her wanted to step forward, to say that she felt the same, but another part of her held back. She had spent so long convincing herself that she didn't need anyone to make her dreams come true, that she could do it all on her own. But with Liam, it felt like there was something more at stake. "Liam, I don't know what to say," she said, her voice shaking. "I care about you too, but I've never been in a relationship like this before, and I'm scared. I don't want anything to get in the way of what we've built together." Liam's expression softened, and he reached out, gently cupping her face in his hands. "I understand," he said quietly. "I'm not asking you to choose me over your dreams. But I can't ignore how I feel, Emma. I want to be with you, not just as someone helping you with the gallery, but as someone who cares about you deeply." Emma felt a lump form in her throat as she looked into his eyes. She had never let herself rely on anyone, especially not someone as successful as Liam. But as she stood there with him, feeling his warmth and sincerity, she couldn't help but wonder if maybe it was time to let someone in. "I don't know if I'm ready for this," she whispered, her voice faltering. "I'm still figuring things out, and I don't want to mess things up." Liam smiled gently, brushing a strand of hair away from her face. "You don't have to have it all figured out, Emma. We can take it slow, see where it goes. I'm not asking for anything more than to be here with you." For a long moment, Emma just stood there, looking up at him. The night air was cool, and the world around them seemed to fade into the background. She had spent so long being afraid of needing someone, of letting someone see her vulnerability. But with Liam, everything felt different. He wasn't asking her to be perfect. He wasn't asking for anything other than to be with her, to be part of her life in a way that went beyond the gallery. Slowly, tentatively, Emma nodded. "Okay," she said, her voice soft but sure. "We can see where this goes." Liam's face lit up with a smile, and before Emma knew it, he was pulling her into a gentle embrace. She rested her head against his chest, feeling a sense of calm she hadn't expected. For the first time in a long while, Emma felt like she wasn't carrying the weight of the world on her shoulders alone. She wasn't sure what the future held, but in that moment, she knew that whatever happened, she wasn't walking down this path by herself. And that, more than anything, gave her the strength to keep moving forward. Weeks passed since Emma had agreed to take a chance on Liam, and their connection continued to grow in ways neither of them had expected. Emma found herself falling deeper for him with each passing day, but it wasn't just the attraction or the support he provided. It was the way he saw her. He didn't look at her as a struggling artist or someone who needed saving. He saw her as someone with a vision, someone who could stand on her own, and that was exactly what she had always wanted. Yet, even with their blossoming relationship, Emma couldn't shake the feeling of unease that sometimes crept in. She had always been independent, always prided herself on doing things by herself. Now, as her gallery continued to gain attention and her dreams started to feel more tangible, there was a part of her that feared she might be losing that independence. She wasn't used to relying on anyone, especially not someone as powerful and successful as Liam. One evening, after a particularly long day at the gallery, Emma was sitting in her small office, sorting through emails when Liam stopped by to check on her. He had a habit of visiting the gallery late in the evenings, especially when he knew she was still working. He walked in with that familiar warm smile of his presence filling the room with a calmness that she had come to depend on. "You're burning the midnight oil again," he said, leaning against the doorframe, his voice light but with a hint of concern. Emma smiled, feeling the weight of the long hours she had been putting in. "I'm almost done," she said, trying to brush off the exhaustion in her voice. "I just need to get through these final details before the next exhibition." Liam walked over to her desk and sat across from her. "I can see how much this means to you, Emma. You've put so much into this place. But I'm worried you're pushing yourself too hard." Emma looked at him, feeling the tension in her shoulders. She had heard those words from others before, but, coming from him, they felt different. He wasn't just telling her to slow down. He was concerned for her well-being. "I'm fine, really," she replied, though she wasn't entirely sure if she believed herself. The weight of everything, the gallery, the artists, the pressure to succeed, had been building up, and she had started to feel like she was barely holding it all together. Liam studied her for a moment, his gaze soft but steady. "I know you don't like to ask for help, Emma," he said quietly, "but you don't have to do this alone. You've already built something incredible, and I'm here to support you however you need." His words hit her harder than she expected. She had spent so long convincing herself that she could handle everything by herself, that she didn't need anyone's help. But here he was, offering his support without question, without any expectation of anything in return. Emma felt a lump form in her throat, a mix of gratitude and fear. She wasn't sure what to do with the kindness he was offering. "I don't know how to do this with someone else," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "I've always had to do everything on my own. Asking for help, it feels like I'm giving up a part of myself." Liam's expression softened, and he reached out to take her hand, his touch gentle and reassuring. "You're not giving up anything, Emma. You're allowing yourself to trust, to let someone in. That's not weakness, that's strength. And I promise, I'm not here to take anything from you. I just want to be by your side." His words pierced through the walls Emma had built around herself. For the first time in what felt like forever, she allowed herself to relax, to lean into his presence. "I don't want to lose myself," she said quietly, staring down at their joined hands. "I'm scared that if I let someone help, I'll lose what makes me me." Liam squeezed her hand gently, a comforting warmth radiating from him. "You're never going to lose yourself, Emma. Not with me. You're exactly who you need to be, and I'm just here to help you become even more of that." The sincerity in his voice calmed the storm of doubt swirling in her chest. She had always feared losing herself to the people around her, but Liam wasn't asking her to change. He was simply offering to help her carry the load, to share the journey with her. "Thank you," she whispered, the words barely escaping her lips, but they felt like the most honest thing she had said in a long time. Liam smiled softly. "No need to thank me. I'm here because I believe in you, and I want to see you succeed, not just in the gallery, but in everything you do." That night, as Emma sat in her office, she realized something. She didn't have to do everything on her own. She didn't have to be alone in this journey. Liam was offering her something she had never allowed herself to accept before: partnership, support, and the chance to trust someone else with her dreams. It was terrifying, but it was also liberating. As the days passed and the gallery continued to grow, Emma learned to lean on Liam, to allow him to share in the successes and the struggles. And with each moment, she felt a little less afraid, a little more willing to trust that she didn't have to carry the weight of the world alone. Together, they were building something beautiful, something that was more than just a gallery. It was a future, a shared vision, and the beginning of a life they would create together. The weeks that followed were both exhilarating and challenging for Emma. The gallery continued to grow, attracting new artists, visitors, and even some media attention. Yet, despite the success, Emma couldn't shake the gnawing feeling of doubt that still lingered inside her. The opening had been a high point, a moment where she felt everything come together in a way she had only dreamed of. But as the days passed, the weight of it all began to sink in. She felt the pressure of keeping everything running smoothly, balancing the demands of the gallery with her personal life and the constant internal tug-of-war over her independence. Liam had been her rock, offering his support and resources every step of the way. He had become more than just a business partner. He had become someone she relied on, someone she cared about deeply. But the closer they got, the more she realized that the fear she had been carrying about relying on someone wasn't gone. It had only shifted. She was terrified that, somehow, her success would always be seen as something that was built with his help, not her own. She had spent so long striving to prove she could do it alone. Could she reconcile her dream with the reality of needing someone else? One evening, as she worked late in her office, going through emails and checking upcoming events for the gallery, Liam came in, as he often did. This time, he was carrying a bottle of her favorite wine. "I thought you could use a break," he said, setting the bottle down on the desk. "You've been working nonstop." Emma smiled faintly, feeling the exhaustion in her bones. "It never ends, does it?" she replied. "Not when you're trying to make something happen," Liam said softly, sitting down beside her. "But you don't have to do it alone, Emma. You've got me. I want to be there for you." She turned to look at him, her heart skipping a beat. She had heard those words before, but this time, they hit differently. He wasn't just offering support. He was offering himself, his time, and his belief in her. And yet, that same old fear crept back. "I know you're here for me," she said quietly, her voice tinged with uncertainty. "But I don't want to be the person who depends on someone else. I've spent my whole life learning to do things by myself." Liam's expression softened, and he reached for her hand, his grip gentle but firm. "You don't have to prove anything to me, Emma," he said. "I'm not here to take anything from you. I'm here because I care about you. I believe in you, and I want to help you with whatever you need, no strings attached." His words hung in the air, heavy with meaning. Emma's mind raced. She had spent so long convincing herself that relying on others was a sign of weakness. But what if this was different? What if letting someone in wasn't about losing herself, but about gaining something deeper? She squeezed his hand, her voice trembling slightly. "I don't know how to let someone in like this," she admitted. "I'm scared that if I do, I'll lose the part of me that's always been enough." Liam looked at her with such tenderness that it almost took her breath away. "You won't lose anything, Emma," he said softly. "Letting someone in doesn't mean losing yourself. It means trusting that you don't have to carry the weight alone. And you're not alone, not anymore." Emma blinked back tears, feeling a mixture of relief and fear. She had been so focused on standing on her own that she had neglected the fact that there was strength in sharing the load. Maybe she didn't have to have it all figured out. Maybe it was okay to trust, to lean on someone who truly cared. "I'm scared," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "But I think I'm ready to try." Liam smiled, his eyes filled with warmth. "That's all I need to hear," he said, pulling her into a gentle hug. You don't have to be perfect, Emma. You just have to be you. As they stood there, wrapped in each other's arms, Emma felt a sense of peace she hadn't known in years. She was still unsure about many things, her future, her dreams, and her place in the world. But in that moment, she realized that maybe she didn't need all the answers. Maybe all she needed was to trust in herself, in Liam, and in the life they were building together. The gallery was more than just a space for art. It was a symbol of everything she had worked for, and now, with Liam by her side, she knew she wasn't facing it alone. The road ahead might still be uncertain, but for the first time in a long time, Emma felt ready to walk it, one step at a time. As the months continued to pass, Emma found herself growing more comfortable with the idea of sharing her life with Liam. The gallery was flourishing, and with each successful event and exhibition, Emma felt a greater sense of fulfillment. She had learned to rely on him, not just as a partner in business, but as someone who genuinely cared for her. Their relationship was blossoming, and for the first time, Emma felt like she could truly allow herself to be vulnerable. But just when things seemed to be going perfectly, a challenge arose that would put everything to the test. One morning, Emma received a call from her accountant. "Emma, we need to talk about the finances," he said, his voice strained. "The gallery's been doing well, but there are some issues with cash flow. It looks like we're going to hit a bottleneck soon if we don't make some adjustments." Emma's heart sank as she listened to the details. The gallery's success had brought in more traffic, more artists, and more sales, but it also meant more expenses, and right now, there wasn't enough liquidity to cover the rising costs. She had been so focused on the creative side of things that she hadn't given the financial side the attention it needed. She hung up the phone, her mind racing. The last thing she wanted was for the gallery to fail, especially now when it was so close to becoming everything she had dreamed of. But she couldn't do this alone. Liam had been supportive in so many ways, but this was different. This was about numbers, about the future of the gallery, and Emma couldn't shake the feeling that she had let things slip through the cracks. Later that day, Liam stopped by the gallery as he usually did. When he walked in, he immediately noticed the tension in Emma's demeanor. "Hey, what's wrong?" he asked, concern evident in his voice. Emma hesitated for a moment, unsure of how to approach the conversation. She had never been good at asking for help when it came to the business side of things. "There's a problem with the finances," she finally admitted. "We're running into a cash flow issue. The gallery's doing great, but the expenses are higher than I realized. We need to make some tough decisions soon." Liam listened intently, his face thoughtful. He didn't interrupt as she explained the situation, letting her get it all out. When she finished, he sat down next to her, his expression serious. "I know you've been handling this on your own, but you don't have to. We can work through this together. I have resources, and I can help you find a way to balance the books. You don't have to face this alone." Emma looked at him, her chest tightening. She was afraid that accepting his help would mean losing control, that the gallery wouldn't feel like hers anymore. "I don't want to give up control," she said softly. "This is my dream, Liam. I've worked so hard to get here, and I don't want to compromise what it stands for." Liam's gaze softened, and he reached out to gently take her hand. "I'm not asking you to give up anything, Emma. I just want to help you build this, to make sure it lasts. I believe in your vision, and I'm not here to take over. I'm here because I want to see you succeed." Emma felt the weight of his words. She had been so focused on doing everything herself that she had forgotten the value of asking for help when it was needed. She knew he wasn't trying to take control, but she still felt the tug of hesitation in her heart. Could she really trust someone else with her dream? "I don't know if I can do this," she said, her voice shaky. "I've always been so afraid of losing myself, of relying on someone else. But now, I'm scared that if I don't make the right choice, everything I've worked for will fall apart." Liam squeezed her hand gently. "You've already built something amazing, Emma. But even the best dreams need support. You're not alone in this, not now, not ever." His words settled in her heart, and for the first time, she allowed herself to believe them. She had spent so long trying to hold everything together by herself that she had almost forgotten what it felt like to let someone else share the load. It wasn't about losing control. It was about building something stronger, together. "Okay," she said softly, finally allowing herself to relax. "Let's do this. Together." Liam smiled, his eyes filled with pride. "I'm with you every step of the way," he said. And with that, Emma felt a weight lift from her shoulders. The road ahead was still uncertain, but she knew she wasn't walking it alone anymore. With Liam by her side, the gallery, and everything else felt like it had the chance to succeed. Together, they would make sure it did. Months passed, and the gallery flourished beyond Emma's expectations. She had finally learned to balance her vision with the reality of running a business. The financial stress she had once feared was behind her, thanks to Liam's guidance, and the artists she showcased continued to thrive within the walls of her space. Emma had allowed herself to believe in her dream more fully, and in doing so, had opened herself up to a partnership that was much more than she had ever imagined. As the months went by, their connection deepened. Liam remained by her side, not just as a business partner, but as a constant support. What had started as a professional relationship slowly transformed into something more, something Emma could no longer deny. There were moments when she would catch him looking at her with a tenderness that sent her heart fluttering, and she found herself falling more and more in love with the man who had helped her build this dream. She had never imagined that relying on someone would feel like this, comforting, natural, and most of all, right. But as her feelings for Liam grew, so did her concerns about their future. She had been so determined to maintain her independence, to keep her sense of self intact, that the idea of committing to him fully scared her. Was she ready to let go of the walls she had built around her heart? Was she ready to step into a future with him, to trust him completely? One evening, as the gallery hosted another successful opening, Emma stood by the door, greeting guests as they walked in. The room was buzzing with energy, filled with people admiring the art and talking about the talent showcased. It was everything she had dreamed of, and more. But as she looked around, she realized there was something missing. Liam. She hadn't seen him all evening, and as much as she tried to stay focused on the event, a nagging feeling grew in her chest. She excused herself from the crowd and made her way to the back office, hoping to find him there. When she opened the door, she was surprised to find Liam standing by the window, looking out over the city. His posture was tense, and for the first time in a while, he seemed distant. "Liam?" she said softly, stepping into the room. He turned to face her, a small smile playing at the corner of his lips, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Hey, Emma," he said, his voice quiet. "Everything okay?" she asked, walking over to him. "Yeah," he replied, but there was a hesitation in his tone. "Just thinking." "About what?" She was worried now. Liam was always the calm one, the steady presence in her life. Seeing him like this unsettled her. He hesitated again, glancing down at his hands before meeting her gaze. "About us," he finally admitted. "About what comes next." Emma's heart skipped a beat. She had been so focused on the success of the gallery and her growing feelings for him that she hadn't considered what the future might look like for them as a couple. "What do you mean?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. Liam took a deep breath and walked closer to her. "Emma, we've come so far together, and I've never been more sure of anything in my life than how much I care about you. But I also know that we both have dreams, and we're both scared of losing ourselves in them." He paused, searching her eyes for understanding. "I don't want to lose you. I don't want us to lose what we have by letting everything else get in the way." Emma's mind raced. She had always feared that her independence would be compromised if she allowed herself to truly commit to him. She had worked so hard to build the gallery in her life, and she wasn't sure how to let go of that control. But looking at Liam, hearing the vulnerability in his voice, she realized something. She wasn't alone in this. He wasn't asking her to give up her dreams. He was asking her to share them with him, to build a future together. "Liam, I don't want to lose what we have either," she said quietly. "I'm just scared that if I give in to this, I'll lose everything I've worked for. I don't know how to balance it all." Liam stepped closer, taking her hands in his. "You don't have to balance it all on your own, Emma. You've already proven that you can make your dreams come true. And I'm here, not to take away from that, but to support you, to help you find a way to balance both your dreams and us." Emma looked at him, feeling the truth of his words settle deep within her. He wasn't asking for everything. He wasn't asking her to give up who she was or what she had built. He was simply offering to walk alongside her. She had never imagined that love could feel like this. So gentle, so supportive, and yet so strong. "I'm ready, Liam," she whispered, her voice full of emotion. "I'm ready to trust you. To trust us." Liam's face broke into a soft smile, his eyes lighting up with joy. "Then let's build this future together." he said, pulling her into a warm embrace. And in that moment, Emma knew that her future was no longer something she had to face alone. It was something they would face together, building on the foundation of trust, love, and shared dreams they had created. The gallery, the love they had built, everything was a part of this new chapter in her life. It wasn't just about the success of the gallery anymore. It was about the life they were creating, one step at a time, side by side.